Okay. Hello, everyone. I just want to session. The topic I have already put out here. Raghava Krishna is our guest for the channel, and I'm going to introduce you to him once he joins. So this is the topic name. Let me just change that so that people don't confuse me for the gentleman who is going to show up. Okay, let's see. Hello, everybody. 4 of you are here with me. I really appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. Today, whoever is celebrating Ugadi, the new Telugu year, welcome and Happy New Year, Happy Ugadi for you. And whoever is celebrating Gudi Padwa in Maharashtra, Happy New Year to you as well. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, so Raghava Krishna is here. Let me just welcome him. Okay, I'm going to switch. Hello, sir. Namaste, Raghava Krishna garu. Chala santoshanga undi meer ikkadiki vachinanduku. I'm going to, thank you. I'm going to introduce you to everyone. Before that, I would like to take this opportunity to explain to you what we do here on the platform. So we are a few SSRians. There are a few co-hosts along with me who do this as frequently as we can. We are Sushant Singh warriors. That's what we like to call ourselves. And Sushant Singh is the ultimate biohacker based on whatever I have researched about him in the past 2.5 years. So whenever I see or Varun or Girijaji, who are the other co-hosts here, and this is Varun Kapoor's platform, he's the one who started, he has to date done 300 episodes on the fight for justice for Sushant in the last 2.5 years. I have personally done 20 episodes on just trying to understand and decode SSR because of the kind of personality he was. We are kind of crazy about him. That's how I would put it. So in the process, I am trying to better myself so that I can be a better human being for my children. Because I see children like Sushant Singh, who were going to do great things. Their life was taken away at such a young age. So what can I do to contribute and, make this world a better place? This is just my contribution. So in the journey, I found you, and your tweets have, for me, made me rethink a few things that I think about life, not judge people too harshly, just give them a break, and also try to just look at myself in the mirror about how I can do things better. So thank you for that. And I would let all your words speak for themselves. And please, those of you in the comment section here with us, welcome, welcome. You are in for a treat. Ugadi Subhakankshalu Telugu Variki and Gudi Padwa celebrations for Maharashtrians. Thank you so much, guys. And Raghav Garu, welcome. Please, if you can just briefly explain what you have been doing so far and how you are here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's actually very inspiring to see the kind of commitment that you and the rest of the team members have to take inspiration from somebody who was clearly an extraordinary individual. Unfortunately, had a sad ending. And I think we owe it to ourselves and to our children, like you said, to find the role models that we can and see how we can emulate them. So firstly, thank you for doing the work. I'm not particularly aware of the scenario and the details of the investigation of the incident, but I share your concern. I share your emotion, the inspiration that you've drawn from the life of Sushant Singh Rajput. So thank you for that. Very, very happy to be here. And hello and hi, namaskaram to all of your viewers who are watching this. It's actually an unremarkable journey, and it's not really something that's that's a big story. I am from Hyderabad. I come from a lower middle class Telugu Hindu family. My father is a cost accountant and a company secretary, but he earned his educational qualifications very late in life. And that is actually the first lesson that I've drawn in my life. That after he had two kids and after he had assumed responsibility of running a family, around 30 years when he was actually, when he was 30, and around that time he was probably, a lower level clerk in railways selling tickets on the platform. But he had this vision that he can improve himself, and he started studying on his own. He became a cost accountant, an LLB, and a company secretary in a span of 10 years. So my earliest memory is seeing my father work hard to straddle both his job and the learning that he was really, really yearning for, and the respect that education has in the Indian society. And the lesson was, of course, that you have to value learning, and education is critical. But a deeper lesson was that that element of self-respect, that element of not letting the circumstances that you find yourself in define the boundaries of what you can achieve. And that lesson stayed with me all the way. So the first message that I have is a respect for education, respect for learning, and the need to stand up on your own feet. That's a message that was very clear. And I think that's a common lesson that most of us in lower middle class backgrounds get. You understand very early in life what your place in the society is, and you realize that you have to work hard. And I think it's another factor that's probably similar with SSR as well. If I know right, he also made his way up in life from a very ordinary beginning in a very, very competitive industry. Of course, not at the same level, but the lesson was that I graduated in 2001 from Hyderabad. I'm a commerce graduate, and right after that, I started working because that was the demand of the family. I joined, and I'm a product of the liberalized world. So I was fortunate to join the workforce when the uh, the rising tide of globalization was lifting all the boats.
Yeah.
Because I joined the workforce in 2001 when the IT industry and the back office operations for some of the leading multinational companies was being set up.
Okay.
And it was also a chance that I was in Hyderabad, where the IT boom, if you would want to call it that, first took place, at least one of the first few cities in India. So I joined the workforce. I joined a company called General Electric, GE Capital, and then I worked with them for a couple of years. Like all other, youngsters, the idea was that you have a talent and you can immediately deploy it. And very quickly, work life helps you understand that there are so many more who are talented than you.
Yeah.
As-
Truly humbling experience. Yes.
it is, and that's an essential experience.
Yeah.
As they say in India, if you are one in a million, there are about 130,000 of you, right? So you
Exactly.
have to assess yourself fairly quickly,
Yeah.
and be comfortable, right?
Yeah.
And uh, uh, by way of background and by way of personality, uh, I always had an emphasis on contentment and being happy, right? And that's a compact that I made with myself very early in life. I don't know how. Maybe it's the books that I read, maybe it is the movies that I saw, or the people that I got inspired by, and also learning from how not to be when I saw certain people lose control of themselves. Uh, when I reflected on this, even as a teenager and growing up, and definitely once I started working, this question of what makes it difficult for us to be happy, was always very, very important to me. Right? So my reflection right from my first job was on the behavioral patterns that we get into. I didn't have a way to think about it at that time.
Yeah.
It's only when I look back that I know that this was a constant theme in my life. And when I saw people around me, including myself, in many occasions, it is just the compulsion loop that we get into,
Yeah.
and the inability to withdraw ourselves and create a bit of a distance from the situation and what we define as our identity,
Yeah.
that sometimes
Objectively.
seems to make it
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
So, and at workplace, it was very clear. Even I was a 21-year-old, and I was working with people who were elder, who were more experienced. But I could see that anger, jealousy, envy, anxiety, these are pervasive, right?
Yeah.
and and they are human.
Yeah.
And that's it's important to note that all of us have that. We all have shades of that. But when I looked at it in a lot of ways, it felt like it is because we are in this constant act of comparison and constant act of telling the world who we are, this compulsion to tell the world who we
Yeah.
are, and the inability to sit with ourselves with our own voice and be at rest. That seemed to be a common underlying sort of theme across different scenarios in different situations. So that's something that I started reflecting on. 2003, I moved into my second job, and it was very interesting, very enterprising, and very fruitful uh, journey for me in that company. It was an online poker and casino company.
Okay.
So for the next 7 years, I help people gamble, and,
Hmm.
and I keep joking that what I've done since then is in some ways a way to make up for that. But
Okay.
it was a very interesting industry
Okay.
because it ran on idea and it ran on a technological innovation.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of exciting continuous string of developments which were amazing from a technology standpoint as part of the company which saw such tremendous growth and such a challenging environment because poker, casino, these are all very interesting industries and very interesting laboratories of study of human behavior.
Yes.
I
Yes.
was with that
Absolutely.
organization for 7 years. As part of that, I
So I
traveled
just
and
want
I
to stop you
sure.
here. Just curious about which side, so that they will inform my future questions. I'm thinking, so human psychology. Were you on the consumer experience side,
Yeah,
or were you on the? Okay,
yeah.
so
I was on the I was a part of a team called the Gaming and Promotions,
okay,
which was interfacing between the marketing team, the product team,
oh,
and
wow.
the customer operations.
Okay. So
Yeah.
marketing is
So
all like, how do you get them hooked and how do you
yeah,
keep them there, right? Okay, nice,
yeah.
nice, interesting.
Yeah, and of course, in a product like casino and poker, there is a very natural tendency to be hooked. So I
Okay,
was also
right.
heading a unit called Responsible Gaming, which
Okay.
was actually charged with the responsibility of making sure that the interest does not turn into
Hmm.
obsession or a negative externality out of that interest that we're having.
That I was like about to just shut the interview off, and when you said responsible gaming, I'm like, okay, I need to give this guy a chance. No, I'm just kidding. This is good stuff.
I
No,
I can tell
no.
you I've transformed since then.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'm just see. We everybody does whatever they have to do until we decide that a vocation that we have chosen can
Yeah,
become our destiny, right? So I
yeah.
think that is what we are going to get to with you because. Uh, and as you said, you are repaying your debt back to society now, whatever
No,
you are doing.
I have very fond memories. I've learned whatever skills I have as a professional. I cut my teeth in that organization, and that
Yeah,
organization gave me the chance to hold some responsibilities, which were far bigger than what my talent or my age demanded at that time.
yeah,
Uh, I'm very grateful, but yes, sometimes, and it's interesting. This is also a study of your own behavior, of your own nature,
yeah,
because you have the ability to rationalize,
yeah.
and you are fairly decent at being able to explain your actions, being able to articulate and influence the opinion that others have.
Yeah.
Sometimes you deploy that against yourself. So for
Optimism bias, right? Like you're like, I think I'm doing good, I'm facilitating all these things, and you try to
yeah,
pat yourself on the shoulder and keep moving forward.
exactly. And also intellectualize it.
Yeah.
If you have a flair for it, you will also start giving some macro reasoning for it. So, for
Mm.
example, I
Yeah.
was talking about choice and freedom and
Yeah.
why we should not have a stigma. All of those just to justify the
Yeah.
fun that I was having,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and this is the essential nature. We are by nature. We like to avoid pain and we seek pleasure, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we deploy all of our intelligence in rationalizing those choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loss avoidance, loss aversion, and
Yeah.
definitive seeking of pleasure
Yeah.
is inbuilt into it.
Yeah.
And that is where you start understanding what culture means, right? How does
Yeah.
culture channelize this natural tendency we have towards higher outcomes, which is what we understand as the Hindu civilization, the Indian culture that we have. And I'll come to that. I spent 7 years, and by the time I was married, I met Reena, my wife, at GE in my first job. Very quickly turned into a lifelong association. Got married in 2006, and I have a daughter, Sahiti. She is 13 years old now. Very opinionated, but has a very strong moral reasoning,
Yeah.
and truly
Generation
believes in.
Z, Generation Z is, they are always on high moral ground.
Yeah,
I have
they are,
two,
but
yeah,
you have two kids.
yeah. I have two
And that is actually
Generation
natural,
Z.
no?
Yeah.
That is natural in them, and that's the strength. That's the
Their
strength.
civic voice is bigger than, because of the scalability of social media, their civic voice is bigger than any one of us before. So I myself, I am Generation Y, which is a
Yeah.
millennial. So,
Yeah.
so I think you are also a millennial, so kind of on the fringes of that.
Yeah.
So the Generation Z has taken it to a different level than millennials. Millennials were kind of start of awakening, but then Generation Z and came and just ran everybody over. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So I spent a couple of years in Europe as part of my job. I set up a multilingual customer operations center
Okay.
in a place called Gibraltar, south of Spain.
No.
I came back to India because for some reason, right from my childhood, I was madly in love with India.
Yeah.
The constant love story is India, and in a very, very visceral way, in a very almost compulsive obsession with Bharat, and I felt it was I felt comfortable, and luckily that's how Reena saw it as well. So we came back in 2009, and 2010 I joined an organization called Electronic Arts. It's one of the leading game development companies in the world, and they had a game development studio here in Hyderabad. So after 7 years of helping people gamble, I moved to helping people
Play
play
video games. Oh
video
my
games on mobile devices.
I should have
So
done more research, Raghav Garu. I should have done more research. No, I'm just kidding.
I cover my tracks well.
Yeah. No, I'm just
So
kidding. Yeah.
I spent the next 7.5 years working with the game development studio here in Hyderabad. I would say professionally, that's the best time that I've had, and that's the time that I've really learned whatever the repertoire that I have as a professional. Really got fine-tuned working for that, because game development, while there are many opinions about the role games play and whether they are a positive force or a negative force, while that we can have the debate later, but the act of creating fun, creating immersive experiences is an extremely challenging one, an extremely creative one, because it is at the intersection of 7 or 8 key disciplines that need to come together to create that moment of abstraction. So you think about design, you think about art, you think about technology, think about marketing, you think about product development, you think about community management, you think about sales, you think about platform related developments. All of those things need to come together to create something that is not a need. It is not a need for you, right? There's no need for it. We cannot define fun, but we know fun when we have it.
Yes. Yes.
And to do that at a moment's notice on your mobile device, where you already have 10,000 other distractions,
Exactly.
and each one of that is trying to vie for your attention, is a very, very challenging task creatively. It's highly refined. And when you're trying to do that for a global audience, working from India, trying to understand the cultural nuances
Cultural.
of the audience, it was just exhilarating. I worked with some of the best minds that worked on game development in India. We had a lot of fun in building that team, and graduating from a studio that was, let's say, doing remote add-on work to actually designing and developing direct consumer experiences for millions of people across the world every day. So that journey was very, very inspiring and very elevating. And a lot of what I understand as philosophy of running creative teams as the intersection of design, society, technology. A lot of things that I talk about today are actually grounded in the experience that I had working in game development. And that has taught me a lot, because you're creating experiences that people interact with. And
Yeah.
that means that you have to respect choice.
Yeah.
You have to give agency to the person who is interacting. You can call it design thinking, you can call it systems. There are many ways to think and explain this. But that fundamental act of empathy while being a creative team. So this whole thing of being able to put your creativity in service of somebody's experience,
Yeah.
that's a very humbling experience. Because on one hand, you are the creator, and therefore there is that natural passion, a bit of a ego, a bit of
Yeah.
ownership that necessarily has to seek in, to be a part of that. But you're doing that, and you're putting it out to the world, and the world validates you brutally
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah.
And that feedback is a very functional one.
Yeah.
It's a very humbling one, because you know that things that you love might not necessarily move people,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
therefore you have to create what they love, but you also
Absolutely.
have to be true to your creativity.
Yeah.
So that's a constant tension. So it was, and my job was exactly at the intersection of all of these conversations. So I had a great time. But no, throughout this journey, Rachana Garu, the constant backdrop to my life, and I can only see this now. I was not analyzing this when I was doing that. Was the question about Bharat? Right? What is really our story? Because as any Indian would experience, there is a strength in this culture, right? Which can withstand so much, which can give so much, which can actually hold all of us together. But we also have stories about ourselves written by others, which are not really reflective of the way we see ourselves. Right?
Yeah.
Call it an accident of history, call it a lack of awareness about ourselves, call it the hijacking of education. For many, many reasons, we haven't yet fully come to terms with our own identity. And this I faced, although I worked in a creative industry and was one of the best places and I've learned a lot. You could still see that when you're interacting with the world is informed about your culture by means that are not yours.
Yeah.
Your stories are not yours, right? So there is already a set notion, right? So I have a lot of self-respect about what Bharat stands for, but it's difficult to see that being reciprocated in very
Right.
subtle ways. Nobody obviously is rude
Sir,
to you.
when Kim Kardashian is putting Mang Tika and wearing a night gown to go to a party, or when Selena Gomez is putting a bindi and dancing to some English lyrics, how do you think the reciprocity will come? It's just so. And when
Yeah.
people see me, they're like, Ayo or Jai Ho. And I'm like, no, 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 wait. It's just.
Yeah.
So I totally understand what you are trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do
So
you,
there is.
but in your comfort zone, when you were like at the helm of so many things happening, there is so many things that you're creating every day, you're already challenged enough. How do you cut to, getting a existential crisis and like thinking that I need to do something? So
Yeah.
how is that? Yeah.
There was no crisis, but there was always a voice, and existential crisis. Sometimes it doesn't need earth-shattering event in your life.
Yeah.
It's the daily humdrum, and if you're active and alert to the voice in
Yeah.
your head, you can pick up that signal. So while I was having a great professional life, I could see that I will not, if I were to look back doing the same thing 20, 30 years down the line, I will not have a sense of fulfillment, not because it was not good thing. And
Yeah.
in many ways, people don't even have a choice. I'm not
Yeah.
saying this from a pedestal,
Yeah.
but I'm saying this purely as somebody who knows himself, the voice, who's
Yeah.
kept that voice alive in the head. And I've always been true to myself. Whether it's a moment of weakness or whether it is a moment where I rise above myself, I'm always honest in acknowledging that to myself. So that was always active. So there was this thing that the story is incomplete,
Okay.
that there is something fundamentally missing in the way we are representing and the world is seeing us.
Yeah.
So there was that, and you get to see it as you start interacting, at such senior levels with people across the world, you see that their information about India comes from different sources.
Yes.
So that was there. So, but I always had a active interest in reading. I always had a fairly eclectic mix: history, economics, psychology, politics, social philosophy, particularly yogic philosophy. These were all organically part of my reading for many years.
Repertoire. Yeah.
But they all came towards being purposive
Yeah.
around 2012 or 2013. By the time I already worked for about 10, 12 years, and I understood where you stand in the larger scheme of things in that world, in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And then I realized that there is something stopping India from achieving its true potential, right? And that's subliminal. It's not about economic.
Yeah.
You hear the story of economy, you hear the story of liberalization, but you don't flip that equation and say that economy, whatever else opportunities that come in the life journey of a nation, is actually a function of the human resource.
Yeah.
I'm calling this in a common way. It's not a resource in the way we understand resource today, but this energy that we have and the potential that it has. Uh, Actually, that is the cause, and the consequence is the economy or anything, right?
Okay, so
Sometimes,
this is where I'll pull back a little bit where I have lost you. So I will try to translate what you just said.
sure.
Uh, this is great stuff, I'm sure, but for me, I just want to relay it in a way that I understand. What you're saying is the energy or the frequency at which nation can vibrate, or humanity can vibrate to elevate itself. That is what they will receive. So you.
Yeah, so that's one way of looking at it.
Okay.
Maybe see, the language of the world today is economics mostly, right? It's
Okay.
GDP. It is,
Yeah.
development is seen as that,
Yes.
but you don't necessarily get the image or the idea of human potential when you look at that language.
Yes.
But it is the human potential which creates it.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
the language has sort of inverted that if you have economy, then people and the potential come out automatically. It does
Right.
not work like that.
Yeah.
It is fundamental material is the potential that we have. And when the potential is deployed somewhere, it creates certain outcomes. Today, it is
Yeah.
deployed in the
I
service
think
of
I
economy.
understand. I understand now. So you want to not just superficially try to improve the idea of what Bharat is from a superficial. You just want to engage all of us to think collectively to
Yeah. So
maybe cure the
I
symptom. Yeah.
yeah, I have no illusion that I am doing this or I am
Right.
engaging someone.
Yeah.
It is just that as part of my reflection, when I try to understand what is what is the difference between what the narrative is telling us
Okay.
versus what is our real experience, even in a small team, right? You
Okay.
have certain products you want to create. The most fundamental material is what is the talent, commitment, energy, and the range of
Yeah.
people that you
Everybody's
have,
potential. Yeah. Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
potential, you will have to
Yeah.
work at that level first. You have to work with and for people first,
Hmm.
and what comes out creates value.
Right. Right. Right.
This is inverted in the language where we only talk about the outcome, we don't talk
Yeah.
about the cause.
Yeah.
The thinking is too much on the consequence. So that actually means that we will always take short term decisions because raising potential requires a far deeper
Long
engagement.
term. Yeah. Long term hard work. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Long term hard work, you have to be vulnerable, you
Yeah.
have to put yourself in the service of others, and there is no quarterly reporting on human potential.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
true.
that idea, it seems fairly simple,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
is actually the entire journey of cultures in one capsule. Once we look at it, Bharat's way was always about recognizing that potential.
Yeah.
The reason why we are resilient
Yeah.
civilizationally, which is
Yeah.
there in each one of us, the reason why we are comfortable with diversity, the reason why we've survived
Yeah.
and come through, and the reason why we flourish in different circumstances all over the world
Yeah.
is because the DNA was about that innate potential. It is internal. The lens is internal automatically. It might get a bit rusty based on whatever is going on in the world at that time. But the
Nature
minute it,
versus nurture. Yeah. So nature takes. So instead of nature taking over, nurture can take over. Like you can become a
yes,
product of
cultural,
your. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that is of course a perennial debate about nature versus nurture.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you translate abstract that to one level higher as culture,
Okay.
culture
Okay.
is stand in nature. When
Hmm.
nature and the natural order is broken down, we
Yeah.
create cultural norms to reinforce those same principles, right?
Right. 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 Right.
So that the culture plays a role, and that's why we, for Indians, it's a very interesting dualistic experience. There is a core that just organically we resonate with. We know because that is there in our culture. That's our
Yeah.
inheritance. The Indian mind automatically resonates with long-term outcomes. We
Yeah.
can think across large spans of time. We don't actually attribute enough importance to it today. But when you talk about civilization, when you talk about yugas, when you talk about kalpa, when you talk about punarjanma, the mind is automatically rewired to very large time spans. And therefore, this cultural problem that we have today of you only live once,
Yeah.
and therefore you fear missing out.
Yeah.
If you only live once, then you have to capitalize on every
Yeah.
moment of your life. And that is the urgency. The psychology generates this whole fear of missing out. And
Mm.
these have become buzzwords today. We've come to accept it that you only live once. And therefore,
All
because
right.
there is
Four-letter
there is
words that are
yeah,
dangerous.
yeah.
YOLO, FOMO.
Olo and FOMO. And because you fear missing out, you will have to constantly consume.
Yeah.
And this is the exact opposite of how human behavior and particularly mind is. And this is what yogic philosophy tells us. And this has been my journey as well, to
Mhm.
actually come to this recognition, particularly from an industry where I was seeking to create that moment to moment engagement, to
Mm.
understanding what it is to create long term engagement for a society.
Mm.
What is the different kind of philosophy you need? This fear of missing out, the mind, as they say, is a monkey, right?
Yeah.
If you think that you only live once, and therefore the best way to optimize your life is by consuming whatever you can,
Yeah.
as frequently as you can, to keep
Yeah.
getting that,
Yeah.
both in terms of actual chemical
Dopamine.
interactions,
Yeah.
dopamine
Yeah.
kicks, or
Yeah.
the addiction tendencies,
Feedback
but
loop. Yeah.
even more deeper at a worldview philosophy level itself, which then creates the psychology. You are optimizing your entire life for very short term outcomes,
Mm.
as opposed to the culture that we have, which says there are 10 avatars, there are multiple lifetimes, there is intergenerational transfer of knowledge and values. That is what builds a civilization. We don't need to look too far beyond. Even our immediate families, I can bet all of us will have stories of our parents, of our elders, of our cousins who have actually created a surplus for the next generation in their
Yeah.
lifetimes.
Agree. Yeah.
Dharma, this word that we use called dharma, the way I understand it,
Yeah.
is in every relationship with yourself, with your family, with your society, with the community around you, with your nation, and with the world at large. If you can manage that in a way that you're creating surplus and not a deficit,
Mm.
that is dharma. Dharma, if we are saying, is sustainability. That which holds is dharma. That is the
So
definition.
surplus. Yes. Sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to pause you here.
No, no, please.
So surplus of what?
Yeah. So, for example, in a relationship, how can you generate a surplus of trust?
Mm.
How can you and I engage and
Yeah.
collaborate in a manner that I give more than what I take. And we all know this. Even if you don't have a definition for it, every minute, every day of your life, you know whether your choice is something that is creating a surplus or whether you're drawing from the other relationship.
So I will rephrase. Tell me if this is correct.
Sure.
Whatever I touch, whether it's a relationship or anything, I have to leave it better than
Absolutely.
before.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So and contrast that idea, Rachana Garu, with the idea of extreme debt.
Okay. Yeah.
In the Indian philosophy, in the Hindu worldview, the most fundamental principle is the pancharina. Right? All of us are aware of this, right? We say there is a rina to your ancestors,
Yeah.
there's a rina to your parents, to your gurus, to the nature, and to the entire biosphere.
Yeah.
Look at that idea of that life. That every day you are reminded that it is these debts that make your life possible.
Yeah.
It is because all of them held the things that they had to generate that you have something to go by. Contrast that with the entire discourse we are having about extraordinary set of rights today. Everything is
Yeah.
a right. This is the fun.
Entitlement is default.
It is
So
default. It is
yeah.
default and it is psychological. So the
Yeah.
minute you mind creates the narratives and the reality that we supply to it, it makes that whatever
Yeah.
the idea that you supply, it transforms that into a reality.
Yeah.
There's a fundamental understanding of mind that we need to have, right? So if you supply it with the ideas of attrition, scarcity, rights, violence, incessant noise, it will create that, and that is a reality that you see all around you. If you supply it with the idea of abundance, with the idea of debts, with the idea of relationships, with the idea of interdependence, it will create that. Now, only one of these two sets of ideas can create a civilization. We've stopped wondering what it means to, we use this word so much, right? Civilization, civilization, civilization. But just if you were to aggregate this into our own life, how difficult we find it to hold on to something that we create, whether it's a small team or organization or family within our own apartment complex, just to create continuity between one period of time and another period of time, between one generation and another generation. You and I just discussed about the challenges that we have in the cultural norms that our children today experience,
Yeah.
and how challenging it is for a parent to translate and transform them into the value system that you hold, to make sure that there's some continuity. Now, how is it that the civilization did that for thousands of years?
Okay. Yeah.
Isn't that the biggest wonder? And this
Yeah.
is what I discovered. These were the questions
If
that,
everybody was taking,
how do you have sustainability?
yeah.
You
Obviously,
can't.
people were giving back. People were constantly giving back for generations for us to be
Yes.
here having this
Yes.
conversation. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once you have that wonder, and this is the architecture, once you have that wonder about how did things continue,
yeah.
and you look for principles,
Yeah.
what we call dharmic principles, and then you understand how they were culturalized, how they were made part of. If there is a runa to nature, we said praying to the tree
Yeah.
is an act of worship.
Yeah.
And once you made that sacred, there is a relationship that you hold. And that continued. So once you do that, once you build that, then you have gratitude. Then you don't need to wonder about your place in the world. Your place in the world is something that your forefathers and your ancestors, your mother, your grandmother worked very hard to secure. And what is there to not feel beautiful about it?
I'm visualizing myself. It just makes me feel good if I am in a position of giving. If I am holding arm to arm with everybody else to sustain the ecosystem around me, whether it is people or trees or nature or
Yes.
even work or
Yeah.
personal life, relationships, everything. If I'm just holding on to everybody and also in a position to give, as a widespread net of humanity, I just feel good. That's amazing.
To create that possibility and to imagine that there is a civilization that has done that, and that's why it is resilient. 46 civilizations, I think, total, right? And 45 of them have vanished. There's only one ancient civilization surviving the way it was. Of course, there are challenges. Of course, there is dilution. Of course, there is
there's
entropy.
Twitter.
Of
No, I'm
course, there
just
is
kidding.
Twitter. All of those things are there. There is TikTok as well. But you and I are still talking, and when I say this, there's a natural resonance.
Yeah.
Because there is a lived experience, and this is the dual experience of Indians that I constantly reflect on. That we are naturally tuned to this because we have a lived experience of this. We understand what this means because we have an image of that grandmother. I have an image of my grandmother. I have an image of my mother. I have an image of my father who've done this. Right? All civilizations do, but it has been done extensively here as a continuous thing for 2000. Right? So we have that. So that idea naturally resonates with us because part of our cultural DNA is that. But we also live in this world where maximizing every second is sold as happiness. And we cannot escape it also because that is a sensory assault, and we live in that.
I just want to go a little deep of how all these concepts will look like in action. Because how will I put these in action? So if I am living day to day. Okay, so you were talking a little bit about this, the idea of privilege, that you are able to sit here and express yourself in a way and do this because you feel like doing it. If I'm a person who is living day to day, how do I rise above the chaos and still is there a possibility for the people who are less than privileged, of not having to think? How will that look like? And the second thing is, if I'm out of India, so 20 years, just if you say you love India, I will say that I will beat you any day on that, and I love India more than anybody else in the world. So that's how I think of. So it's like I come from a place of spiritual ego from that standpoint. But so how will these two look like in action for these two parties?
So let's take the first question first. Is the ability to give the sole prerogative of those who have some kind of privilege. Right? If I were to reframe your question. You might have seen this. I've definitely seen this in Bṛhat. If you go to any temple, if you go to any society, if you go to any, if you go travel in a train, right? And foreigners have observed this as well. While you're getting into the train, there might be a lot of chaos, and you might jostle, you might pull, you might this one. I think David Roberts, I think in the Shantaram book, he writes about it. But once you're sitting there, if your feet touches someone, you do immediately, there's a second, and you adjust and you give space and you this. For Ram Janmabhoomi, because that is coming up, and it's a seminal movement that's happening in our lifetimes, which I'm grateful for. The donations have gone from the poorest of the sections. The bricks have been donated by them. Right. So you're right. Of course, it is a bigger responsibility for those of us who have a bit more disposable time, energy, money, whatever else as resources we might have. But it is not the prerogative or the exclusive domain of the privileged to be able to give. In fact, in Bṛhat, it's the other way around. It is the normal, everyday person who's kept this culture and civilization in her heart, and they've transferred it. And that is why it is a culture, because it is not just about elites.
No.
It is not a conversation you and I, we can consider ourselves privileged today. It is not just a conversation that we are having. This is there as part of a lived experience in Bṛhat. That is why it's a culture. It's not an intellectualized idea. The Nitya Karmas are there as part of responsibility for everyone. I can probably give what I am cooking at home, but in most ordinary homes in Bṛhat, this is happening even today. in villages, if you're making roti, one roti first goes for the
Naivedyam.
animal on the street.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And children are encouraged to go find that animal and give that there.
yeah.
Right?
We
Or
give yogurt rice so on our street. So we are. I'm from Poranki. It's a Vijayawada suburb.
okay.
If you are not familiar, but so first ritual is you give it. You give yogurt rice to the dog outside.
Correct.
Everybody
Yeah.
is like out and about. Yeah,
That is the beauty of this culture.
yeah, yeah,
That it has given all of us that opportunity to create surplus within our own means.
yeah,
It's not the quantum that counts. It's the intent.
yeah,
So I would say yes. Today we have more disposable income and more material extraction. So we are more obligated to give a lot
yeah,
more of it back. But it is not analytical phenomenon. That's important to
yeah,
understand. It's an anubhuti phenomenon.
yeah,
It is happening because it's part of a larger culture, because that is way life is
mm,
seen as integrated, life is seen as interdependent, life
mm,
is seen as something that is part of the entire universe. Of
mm,
course there is breaking. I don't want to paint a rosy picture
yeah,
entirely. That is breaking with industrialization, that is breaking with the modern economy, that is breaking with urbanization, that is
yeah,
breaking with rapid exponential technology, that is breaking with a certain kind of ideology mixed with technology and capital that is pervasive now.
yeah,
And that is why I do what I do.
yeah. Exactly.
I started Bṛhat because we need institutions to transfer our culture to the next generation. And that will
Mm,
only happen when our stories, the stories of our civilization, connect to the young people in ways that they can relate to. Because this is not a generation, and I'm sure you've experienced this. This is not a generation that will just accept an
yeah.
axiom. They want an explanation, and this
Proof.
is
Yeah.
what most of us struggle. Right?
Yeah.
How do you analytically and rationally explain our
Prove.
gods?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
This is a big challenge we have.
Yeah.
This is a challenge of education. This is a challenge of parenthood. This is a challenge of society. This is a challenge of religion also in many ways. That when you are moving from a experiential tradition, which is what
Mm,
we are,
mm,
to an explanatory tradition, which is what
mm,
we are becoming, where we have to explain things.
mm.
In our childhood, I'm sure you've experienced this.
Yeah.
If you have to go to a temple, they'll say first do pradakshina 3 times.
Yeah.
You don't question why three,
Yeah.
why right to left, why
Yeah.
not this.
Yeah.
We do it if you feel good, because you also get prasadam at the end of this one.
Yeah.
There is a nice loop, and that is part of your reflex.
Yeah.
That's part of your neural pathways,
Yeah.
right? That is forming the idea association, the image association, and the experience that you have. It's
Yeah.
cognitively decoded in a certain way,
Yeah.
right? Today, you first have to explain in most cases, right?
Mm.
And that's a challenge that we have, that we need to somehow create more experiences for our children.
So I have this book I was looking for, Why We Do What We Do, which I
Yeah.
had to constantly refer to quickly to explain to my children about the same thing, right? Pradakshana,
Yeah.
why do we have to do? Why do we have to take prasad in a way that
Yeah.
our fingers are interlaced in a certain way?
Yeah.
Why do we have to
Yeah.
take the tirtham? Why do we have to, why do we
Yeah.
have to take the blessing from the priest?
Yeah.
Everything I had to like scientifically explain and
Yeah.
decode to. I did not know any of that, and I had to read it. So this
Yeah.
is Chinmaya publication,
Yeah.
why we
Yeah.
do what we do about Hinduism. So it really saved my life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's true. It's very true. And
yeah,
that's what. So we need all these tools that can help us explain.
yeah,
But we should never lose of sight or the opportunity to introduce an experience.
yeah,
Okay. So to both, you cannot fight what is clearly the dominant paradigm, because
yeah,
education, the whole global mind has been indexed and fine-tuned in one dimension of analysis. That's what
mm.
education is doing. That's what culture is doing. That's what media is doing. That's what entertainment is doing. All of it is pushing the mind in certain direction, right? To get out of it, you need to have certain other spaces.
So to your, I put the thumbnail as one of your Bṛhat. So can you explain what your website means? I mean the name. My husband went off on a tangent explaining a lot of other things, like how he must have arrived at the name. I was like, no. This is too esoteric for me. Let me just ask Raghava Garu what he was thinking when he came up with that.
Sure. Yeah, it's the entire team, but
Yeah.
I hope I can make it less esoteric, but I will try. So Bṛhat, see, the first time this word registered in my mind was when I read Sri Aurobindo. And in Sri
Okay.
Aurobindo's philosophy, he talks about three things which are at the root of the Hindu worldview itself: Satyam, Rita, Bṛhat. Right?
Okay.
Truth, the manifestation of the truth, and the expansion of the truth. Bṛhat means expansion. It's cosmic. It is, it's scaling up. It's Brahmanda. Right? Now, what scales? We keep hearing this word scale in a corporate sense,
Yeah.
right? I was subjected to torture about this word in some of the previous associations with people who have no idea about what scale really means, right?
Okay.
Because we think scale happens in a certain way. In the Indian philosophy, if you understand the Indian worldview, at the core of anything to grow, there has to be truth, what we call authenticity in personality today, perhaps. Right? It has to be true. It has to come from that space of experiencing it, right?
And
That
only
is the
because of truth, I think it is going to be also sustainable when you scale it,
only
I
truth.
think.
Satyameva jayate, na anrutam. Right? The thing that we miss in the caption that we all love is that unfortunately we've adapted the incomplete. It's not just truth alone triumphs. Na anrutam. Anything that is against Rita, na anrutam. That does not sustain. Now, what is Rita? The central idea of the Indian philosophy is Rita, the cosmic pattern. Right? One way to think about it is that how is the planet itself sustaining? It is sustaining because the Earth is exactly at the distance that it can be from Sun to not be burnt.
Yeah.
It is sustaining because there is a planetary motion that is happening the way it's supposed to every day.
Yeah.
This is the cost. Right? Those are the macro patterns. Any change there, we are all gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Gone.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is Rita. So there
Yeah.
is a pattern which is holding things.
Hmm.
The idea of the Rishi sadhana, or what they've given us through their sadhana, is that they perceived those macro patterns. They understood that and the frequencies at which they are created as mantras. That is why they are mantra drashta. They were able to see that because we are all part of the same. And they gave it to us in a certain format, which then became also a part of our daily culture. That is the genius of this civilization, that the eternal truth has become part of our daily living. That is why it survives. This is called Rita. Seasons, cosmic patterns, nature, all of these things, the macro patterns that you and I might not be able to see,
Yeah.
right? But we perceive that when we think about it.
So we are nothing but a microcosm of whatever the universe is, right? So
We are affected by the patterns. We are
how
also
do you, from a human experience, how do you embody these three?
yeah yeah. So I'll just explain. So
Yeah.
basically, you have the truth, and Rita is the manifestation of the truth in the creation. There is a beautiful story of Shiva and Prakriti and Purusha around this, which is the way of actually telling it as a story. But there is a truth, which is the core design, and a manifestation of that in this universe.
Okay.
As long as they are together, then scale happens. And think about this as an idea that you must have worked on in your own life, right? When you have that moment of intuition, when you know deeply that it is true in your own experience, and you create a design for this program itself,
Yeah.
right? There is a deep emotion that you have for
Yeah.
SSR,
Yeah.
right? And three of you, four of you came together to create this.
Yeah.
You are able to do so 100, so many episodes, 300,
Yeah.
whatever episodes you've done, you have 1 lakh followers, all of that,
Yeah.
because there was a core moment of truth. And your design for this program stayed close to the truth. You began by explaining what your reason for existence is. You draw from that. You don't draw from yourself. You draw from that purpose that you've given to yourself. That is the truth. And as long as your program, your audience, your intent matches that, it will keep scaling. This is the idea that the manifestation has to match the truth. That is when Bṛhat happens. Right? we use this as an inspiration to say there is a core truth about Bharat, which is its culture. There is also the manifestation of this truth as what we call the Indian state today, or Indian polity today, Indian experience today. There is a gap between these two today.
Yeah.
If we are to ask ourselves, why is India not taking the place it should in the world? It is because we are not tethered to what we are.
Identity.
So that when we bring it closer, then the scale, whatever you call it as Vishwaguru or whatever else it is, that will happen through that. It's an outcome of that. It's not a position that you impute onto yourself. It is a function of who you are and how you live the truth that will then generate it. To bring these two things together to create that scale for Bharat once again is the vision, or is the inspiration we have. That's why Bṛhat.
So just for you, as you are trying to put your ideas into action, this is just for my own knowledge. Whenever I'm trying to collaborate with somebody, or take ideas and research on them or something, I see on Twitter, for example, I'm just going to take an example. I don't want you to be put on the spot or anything specifically. It's just my thing. So Devdutt Patnaik, I've read some of his previous tweets. And so I used to read his books and everything. And then I saw some of his tweets. I was like a little frustrated. And then, so today I see one of his tweets being retweeted by somebody where he's explaining what Gudi Padwa actually means, the word Gudi and then Padwa. So I like the idea of understanding what Gudi Padwa is, but the source of information is a little ambiguous for me, because my feelings towards the source are a little ambiguous. So how do I reconcile with that? So even for you, if you are just trying to understand, if you are trying to collaborate with somebody for a greater cause like Bṛhat, right? If you don't like everything about the person, but you also like some ideas, what do you do in that?
Very important thing, and it's a challenge that all of us face every day, both individually. It happens within the team, of course. It also happens as one institution to another. And then you need to create these alliances at a civilizational scale for the full power of Bharat to come. So we put this down. If you go to the Bṛhat website, the other website that we have, the Bṛhat culture, bṛhat.in, we put down our values there, and we said Vyashti and Samasti. And we also said speaking truth agreeably. These challenges are not new, Rachana. These challenges are what our entire Itihasa Purana tradition is about. The most subtlest of the complexities of human arrangement, societal arrangement, all of them have been explored in our civilizational lore. So we draw our inspiration from there. So the idea is to know yourself. One, there is a value alignment. If there is no value alignment, then that's a clear no. Right? That does not work, because there's no truth in that. Yeah. So at the first filter, there is whether or not there is value alignment at a first place.
Full disclosure, I'm a writer, but I am going to steal this. Not my original idea, but value alignment, great point, yes. So I'll have to check whatever you're saying. I'm going to check across whatever conflict I'm feeling.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Then there is a personality level kind of alliance, right? And this is where it's more controllable. The idea and the value is important, and the values are similar, but personalities, resources, the clash is at that level. Right? If that is the clash, then you have to first understand yourself a little bit better. And this is where I am obviously no yoga expert, but with a little bit of reading that I've done and my own observation, it is very clear that we are just creatures of pattern, right, as human beings. Every single second, even now as we are having this conversation, every single second, our mind is constantly supplying this information to the other parts of our being, and we are putting a signature on it. I like it, I dislike it. I like it, I dislike it. In the yogic terminology, we call it raga dvesha. We are just creatures of raga dvesha. Every single second, the senses are going out, getting all the information. They are sending it to your apparatus here. And here you have your buddhi, chitta, manas, ahamkara, and they are operated by your sanskaras, and you're putting a stamp of raga and dvesha. I like it, I dislike it. You stamp it, and that is getting stored in your repository. You need to ask yourself if your displeasure is coming from your compulsions of tendencies, which is more a reflection of you than perhaps the other person or the other situation. This is a deliberative practice that we need to develop. It's an act of reflection. We need to be able to think about this. So the minute you experience that distaste, that discomfort, that awkwardness, right? You need to ask yourself: is my discomfort stemming from a lack of value alignment? Is it stemming from a lack of common agenda? Is it stemming from a perceived distaste of the style or the personality?
Yeah.
Right? At this level, when you are a little bit more aware, you see that over a period of time, you will increase the range that you have in your own mind and heart to accept more and more personalities without having the compulsion to judge them.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you actually go out and seek that to expand yourself. It's a selfish thing. Because I want to get rid of my raga dvesha. Because only by getting rid of raga dvesha do I evolve. To do that, I need to go out and seek a wider set of experiences that life automatically anyways puts us into, right? So if you look at
so I think I understand what you're trying to see. The worldview that I share, you won't necessarily probably share, right? I don't have full transparency to that, but I have associated a raga or dvesha towards you based on just how I feel, and then I connect with you. But I just have to keep the larger picture in mind of my own personal growth towards my
the larger picture is you.
Okay.
You are the larger picture. That's important to recognize. Whatever we're doing only for ourselves, as an expression of ourselves. We should not suffer from any illusion that we're doing things for the larger this or whatever. If this is true, then the larger thing will happen.
Everybody is in alignment with themselves, as you just explained the three levels.
Then the flow happens. It is when we delude ourselves that we are doing things extraordinarily for others, which is actually, if you understand this architecture, it is feeding into your aham. That is becoming your raga and dvesha. You are an algorithm. Your algorithm is picking up signals. And it is labeling. And then it binds you. The minute you put these constraints on yourself, it binds you. It doesn't mean that you need to go seek out extraordinarily difficult experiences. No.
No, I understand.
But when life throws you in certain situations, you be clear that if it is a value misalignment, you walk out. There's no question there, right? It doesn't work. It's not true.
If it's taking too much from the experience or the thing that I'm gaining, if it is just taking away too much, I think there will be a point.
Yes, but taking too much, is that taking too much a function of your compulsion, or is it a function of the other situation, person, whoever it is? If it is a function of your compulsion, then you have an opportunity to improve.
Right. Exactly. Now take it objectively and not just get carried away by.
Take it consciously.
Consciously.
Objective also is a function of your mind, your reason, and your reason is hijacked by your emotion. It is hijacked by your raga dvesha. Go a little deeper. Go a little deeper than reason, and be true to yourself and ask yourself, what is my mind processing when I see this, when I hear this, when I smell this? It's either liking or disliking, liking, disliking, liking, disliking. Constantly, it is doing this. The minute you put your attention to it, it stops.
This is amazing. So, I just wanted to introduce those of you who are just going to look for the website. This is Bṛhat.in. This is amazing. I love the design and everything, and Okay, I can ask you some specific questions, but a lot of them in your journey you have kind of sort of answered them. But for me, personally, when you are in this journey of refining your instrument, uh, how are you putting that in practice? And do you see a reflection of your better self? With just the quality of relationships you're forming, or like, is there, how can you gauge whether
Yeah.
you are leveling yourself up?
Yeah. First thing, there is a definitive process to this, and that
Yeah.
is what we call a civilizational knowledge system. That is our work, and that process involves sadhana. It will definitely involve a guru,
Yeah.
some kind of guru system that you anchor yourself in.
Mm.
If you are lucky, you will find a personal guru. Otherwise, we are lucky collectively that we have a guru system that we can
Yeah.
anchor. Right? So many gurus, so many this one. We can. So there is a that is why it's called a tradition. That is why it's called a system. That there is a way of transmitting that knowledge across generations.
Mm.
You have to arrive at it with that shraddha, not with, you can still question. Even Vivekananda, we are all fond of saying, he was a great questioner and all of that, but there was a
Yeah.
Ramakrishna Paramahamsa who could answer that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
avatara which is making Vivekananda possible. That's the force behind it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to arrive at this with that full conviction in your own civilizational inheritance, that there
Mm.
is Shraddha for the tradition that has held things together. Yeah. Generally, if you anchor there, all your
Mm.
practices start improving much faster. Right?
Mm. Mm.
Typically, in our system, based on your pravrutti, because based on your tendency, it can be from your Jyotisha, it can be from your Ayurvedic profiling, whatever it is. You will
Mhm.
be given a certain customized, personalized sadhana.
Mm.
You will have
Mm.
an Ishtadeva, you will have
Yeah.
a specific mantra, you will have a specific. That ritual, the word ritual that we all so hate,
Yeah.
and we all are very quick to say that I am spiritual but not ritualistic.
Yeah.
What was funny was in game development,
Yeah.
the whole idea of design was to create ritualized play.
Yeah.
The holy grail of a successful game is that you create rituals inside your game for your players to keep coming back.
Yeah.
That
I
is
see
why
that
you have.
children. I teach video game creation, and I teach robotics, and I teach coding, and I see kids are so ritualistic. I'm not joking
Yeah,
when you're saying that. I can see they go open the treasure chest every morning, collect all
yeah,
the coins, then go
yeah,
spend them, and then
yeah,
see what shirt or what
yeah,
avatar they are going to dress them up in. It
yeah.
is so cyclical.
It
I'm
is.
just getting goosebumps when you're saying that.
Yes. That is the appointment mechanic, right? It is just that we are comfortable with that because that's a secular ritual.
Yeah,
Think,
yeah,
not just games, think about your national flag and your national song, your national anthem.
yeah,
Right? These are all rituals. Why do we celebrate August 15th every day in India?
yes,
That
yes,
is a national ritual.
yeah,
It is through these congregational things that mass collective consciousness is generated, that we
yeah,
feel part of something bigger.
yeah,
Today, that is hijacked by ideological causes.
yeah,
That's why you are finding young people holding candlelight marches and all of that. That has got a more positive feedback loop, but it is a ritual.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is a ritual,
Or
right?
now cell phone lights or
Yeah.
something. It's just
All of
yeah,
those are rituals. It
yeah,
is a ritualized universe, as Bharat
yeah,
Gupji says.
yeah,
The sun rises, the birds fly, they sing, they announce the dawn. The
yeah,
seasons move,
yeah.
we get rainfall. All of those are rituals of nature. Right? So
Mm,
fundamentally, it is
yeah,
this replication
yeah,
of the natural rhythms as cultural rituals
yeah.
that actually create that ability to continue. And when you do that, then you will see automatically that you're able to influence more
Mm, mm.
because you're drawing from a wider cultural intelligence, pool of wider cultural intelligence. Right?
So guru, a sadhana
Sadhana
based on
Paddhati.
rituals. Yeah. Uh huh.
Yeah. Whatever the guru advises, depending on your this one. And that's the beauty of our design, right? That it has so much of diversity.
Yeah.
If you are somebody of a certain type, they might ask you to do Shiva sadhana. If you are somebody else, they might ask you to do, make Ganesha your Ishta. So that is there. That what Raju Malhotraji calls as open architecture. That's there in the system. Okay? So you are drawing from that, and you do it in a way that is beneficial to you, that you can experience as truth. But it is coming from that system. That we have to remember. It is coming. You cannot want this and not respect that.
Right.
That is ungrateful.
Yeah, you're not. It's like you have to cite the works that you are. I cannot just copy whatever you just said and not give you credit. No, I'm just kidding.
In academics, we understand this.
Yeah,
it is in cultural realm that we don't seem to understand it, and we need to bring that in.
So okay, so I just wanted, so action wise, I think I have some points that I can personally take away. I was just reading a few tweets of yours, and one of them was you seem to be doing a lot of collaborations. So in action, so personal action, you told me how this all looks like and how you are leveling up every day. So how are you trying to create, so see, I'm not saying this like you become a megalomaniac and just say that I'm influencing a sphere of ecosystem around me or anything. I'm just asking you, how do you put it into action collaboratively, basically? So
no, very important.
Yeah,
very important.
Yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead.
The Chinmaya Mission tweet I just saw from Bṛhat saying that you are collaborating with them. And I'm a huge fan of Swami Chinmayananda ji, because just the sheer volume of books, I keep thinking, okay, check mark, all the books I've read. And I'm like, he has written 2,000 books. How am I ever going to finish this? So it's just, so we are part of Bhavihar here in Atlanta. And
oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know, that is my anchor. You were talking about anchor and rituals and everything. So I feel like there is a sense of calm and peace. And I keep telling my husband and my kids, why can't we replicate the same atmosphere we are there when we are truly like sadhus, and then we come home and we become like totally belligerent animals, right? Why can't we do the same thing here? And but it's a family ritual for us where we like gather there and like a little bit turn inwards to introspect and everything. So just wanted to see what you're collaborating with them for. And
I am I'm a huge beneficiary of what Swamiji has created, right? Like many millions of us. I studied a bit at Chinmaya. I recently attended and I had the great opportunity to give a talk at the Indian Knowledge Systems Conference. Adi Shankara Nilayam. So I have an association going back some time. And Swami Chinmayananda is most remarkable because he balanced the two important currents that actually undergird Bharat. One is the traditional flow of knowledge in the system, in the traditional knowledge system. And the other one is the political flow in the life of a civilization. Swami Chinmayananda is at once somebody who has given us the continuity in the Advaita tradition and, like you said, written all those books, created an international mission. So many of us as children, as parents, owe our own cultural flowering to what he has created, right?
Yes.
And he made it accessible. He made it contemporary and relevant to those times, tweaking it the way it should be done. At the same time, he was also the founding member of VHP when there was a movement for Ram Janmabhoomi, right? Which you would not associate that with, if you only see it as a spiritual thing, right? Because that is a definitive political civilizational movement. It is important to recognize that these two things are one and the same. They are interconnected. It is only when the civilization is protected at a political level, at an economic level, at a societal level, that the deeper core of your spiritual sadhana, of your philosophical knowledge systems, they can flourish. It is only under that structure that this can flourish. If you take the structure away, you don't have this. Okay? And that is where he worked on both these things. So personally for me, when I look at Bṛhat, because we work, like I said, on the education part, on the civilizational part where we talk about the national dangers that we have, whether it is extremist religions, whether it is modern attitudes which break cultural knowledge systems, all of those are real dangers that we have to acknowledge. But all of that is in the service of this deeper flowering, which is at the planetary scale, which is not discriminatory at all, which is open for everyone, right? So that is the idea, and we are creating a 4-day policy boot camp or a policy learning camp from a civilizational perspective. It's very important that people who care deeply about culture, about our tradition, about India, start looking at instruments like public policy, because a single state action impacts all of us. Think about COVID, right? There's no
Yeah.
exception. So that is the power of the decisions that are taken by modern nation states or governments that represent modern nation states. They have huge arc of influence.
Yeah.
The whole idea that we have at Bṛhat is that those decisions have to be culturally informed. They have to be civilizationally aligned to bring that power of modern nation state in the service of civilization. And that is the vision. Towards that, we're doing a 4-day learning camp where we will look at theories of public policy, understand public policy analytically, but also put a civilizational lens on it. And I'm just so grateful that it is happening at Adishankara Nilayam, and I'm looking forward to executing that. It's a cohort of 50 members. We are hoping to get there soon. We just announced it today. But this institutional collaboration again is a collaboration of that vision, right? Where that we understand what Swamiji's work stands for, and we're immensely grateful. Right? So that is where a collaboration is possible, where you truly understand what the other institution stands for.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
That's amazing. That's so I've seen so public policy. Okay, so public policy. I mean, we can revisit it just for my understanding. I think you're talking at civilization-wide impact of policy, right? Like
Yes.
our
Public policy is basically any actions that governments take. Right?
Okay.
I gave COVID as an example. Lockdown is a policy. Right?
Yeah.
Vaccination is a policy. Economics, monetary policy, whatever you can think of. Strategy-wise, you can think about your defense policies. Everything is a function of your water supply is a public policy decision. The roads that you get is a public policy decision. So while we don't attribute or see it that way, everything that you experience in your life is informed by the choices that governments make or the choices that they don't make. In terms of taxes, in terms of immigration, in terms of public health, in terms of quality of air, in terms of employment, in terms of defense.
Are you proposing changes, or are you just
We are building thought. We are building awareness of the importance of these policy actions by state.
an engagement of
Why?
people to understand? Yeah.
Yes. And why it is important for that to have a sense of culture and civilization.
Okay.
Right? Should we destroy a temple to build a road, for example? Very simple example, right?
Yeah.
It is a complex decision. It has all dimensions. How do you look at it? For that, you need to understand what temple stands for.
Yeah.
Today, we use the word development not for building a temple. We use the word development for building only a road.
Yeah.
Right? So why is that?
Interesting. Nice. So if there is a part 2 to it, I usually put my guests on the spot so that I can bring you back sometime when it is possible. But just want your thoughts on self-leadership and any actionable takeaways for all of us who are just on this journey, kind of wandering here and there, but want to stay on the path and keep moving forward for our own self-actualization. So for me, my personal goal is self-actualization in the terms of like living to my highest potential. I mean, there is a lot of things that will hijack my potential, a lot of recommendations on Netflix or Hulu or whatever to like, hey, watch this and, be entertained. But, so that's my personal goal. So how, for those of us who want to try to navigate on a daily basis, just any top 3 things on self-leadership?
Be aware of your own svabhava. And there is a science to it. In Ayurvedic terms, we will call it sattva, rajas, tamas. There is a yogic psychology to help you. You will be aware of your own patterns. right? You will, in Samkhya you call it Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. In Ayurveda, you will go to the idea of the three doshas, right? Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and so understand your constitution firstly, right? Develop empathy as an outward manifestation of your own understanding of yourself, and that's important. What do I mean by this, right? uh, Far too often we have this nice woolly rosy idea of empathy as I understand what you're going through. That is a very misleading notion in my book. I will understand you only to the extent that I've understood myself,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, I'll keep judging you. In the sense, there's a
Putting
difference.
myself in your shoes, only will
How-
happen.
how- but how
Yeah.
do I put myself in your
Yeah.
shoes? For
Yeah.
example, let's say I have done something wrong,
Yeah.
right? It's a terrible
Yeah.
thing I've done, and you come and tell me you empathize with
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
because that's nice. This one, because you want to support me or my friend, you will, try and do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But unless you have gone through that process of living with that idea of having done something terrible yourself, and you have come to terms with what it feels to have done that and to live with that idea of yourself every day, you cannot truly empathize with me.
Hmm.
You can sympathize from above,
Yeah.
you cannot empathize, right? So firstly, when we talk about empathy towards others, we need to recognize our own shadows.
Yeah.
We need to know when we are jealous. We need to know when we let our anger get the better of us. We need to know when we fall for our downward tendencies, and be uh, you know be easy with yourself as well. This is not about extraordinary difficulty, because that path is very difficult. That path is not for everyone suddenly.
Yeah.
Great austerity, improvements every day through the sadhana, and this is very very important, that all of these things, the third thing is, these things are not intellectualized. You don't analyze it and start behaving. In the Indian knowledge system, the only knowledge is that knowledge that alters your behavior for the better. Otherwise it is not knowledge at all, and that happens through practice, through sadhana. It is only when you sit and use those instruments of meditation, of puja, whatever path you might have, that is when your chitta gets a little bit more purer, where
Yeah.
you shed the layers of your aham and you experience the deeper self. When that comes out, then you actually see the life, the potential that you're talking about. It is not about intellectual, rational analyzing,
Yeah.
although that is a part. You
Yeah.
need jnana, you need knowledge, but
Yeah.
this is experience, right? So three things: make an effort to learn your own tendency, be authentic by actually becoming aware of your own emotions, your own patterns, your own motivations, and to do either of those things or both of those things, fix to one sadhana paddhati.
I feel like I love chapter 3 so much. I'm thinking jnana and karma. So I feel like you are giving that kind of
It is. I mean,
summary.
we are all relaying the same thing in with the limitation of our words.
Yeah,
Right?
no,
That
no, no, and
knowledge.
yeah. But I just thought that that's a very well, and it is action oriented, right?
Yeah.
The Gita, so that's amazing. So okay, self aware, empathy, and that knowledge that you are trying to acquire should alter your behavior for the better. I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Anything else, Raghav Garu, right now? I
No,
will.
I'm so I'm so happy that I got to have a opportunity to talk to you and talk to your audience through that. I
Thank
hope
you.
you and I didn't bore them.
No.
I hope it was of some use. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for for taking this initiative and reaching out and
Thank
talking to
you.
people and creating dialogue
I'll
space.
I'll bug you once again to expand more on the questions that I have. I want to write down what, and I also will add chapters for those of us who are going to come back and revisit this.
Oh,
I just want to ask you if you can just tell us how we can support you and your organization, what can we do from our side, or creating awareness or contributing?
Yeah. No, it's a very small organization. We run on very, very limited means, but we have huge ambition to compound our contribution by collaborating with others. Right? Particularly those of you who are not in Bharat and who want to, who want to have some association with institutions here which are working on culture. I'd love to say that that is exactly what we wish to do, right? To be your allies in helping you transfer culture to your next generation. We do it through stories, we do it through sessions, we offer courses. We can also have dialogues on specific topics. My team is much more intelligent than I am. So you will have an opportunity to listen to much better people. Where you can help, if you like what we do, please follow us. Please read what we write. We're coming up with episodic video content. Watch that. Look at our educational courses. Recommend or join them. We'd love to have you. Institutionally, we have two organizations: Bṛhat Culture Creative LLP, which is where we do most of our visual content and written content, and Bṛhat Educational Trust, which is where we do most of our Indian knowledge systems related work. The trust is open for contributions, and you can actually contribute directly. If you go to the bṛhateducationaltrust.in, you will see support us section. I'd be very, very grateful if somebody looks to support that. We have a crowdfunding campaign going on. It's through the Dharmic crowdfunding platform. It's there. If you go to bṛhat.in, on the homepage, you will see DCF campaign. And if you like what we do, you can support us there. But let's just be co-travelers in this path of discovery. I would say the future unfolds once we come together like that.
Very well said, sir. Thank you so much, Raghava, for your time. It's almost 11 o'clock. I'll let you go. But thank you so much once again. And keep doing great things. I think go with great. That's what I always think myself. If anything is bogging me down, I'm like, okay. It'll all pass, and let me just increase my frequency to do something better. So really happy that I came into contact with you. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Good night. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Namaste. Good night.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.